Hello everyone, it's about that time of year again where the fat fuck with the giant sack breaks into your home to give you his package. So to get into the spirit, I thought we'd all don our crustiest sweatpants, bust out the eggnog, and look back at an old ass PvP feud from back in the day when Dark Souls 3 was still bright eyed and bushy bald, young and beautiful, and really active. So, get tucked in, get your G Fuel powder to dump into your eggnog, and bust out those pot brownies, gamers, because Papa Skid's about to regale you with a tale of yore. Now, back in the early days of Dark Souls 3's life cycle, there weren't too many personalities comparing PvP penis size, which is really why I want to talk about this, because this is a pretty unique instance in this game, where two online personalities butt heads and, fucking throw down in the arena. And I'm certain I've told this story before on stream, but I just figured I'd make this one little video right here dedicated to this story. That way when it gets brought up, I can just send people here rather than tell the same story over and over again on stream. So, like I said, not too many big personalities compared their PvPnesses. Not too many people busted out the titty wieners to show to each other to see who was the bigger man, But one thing people did like to argue about was weapon choice versus skill. Now, this isn't something exclusive to Dark Souls. You can find people still arguing about this on every YouTube comment section, 4chan post, Reddit thread, cafeteria lunchroom, public restroom, anywhere you go. You can find people debating whether your choice of weapon or character or your skill matters more in a video game. But in no game have I really seen it be argued as much over and over as Dark Souls 3, because you can still find people arguing about this in the comment sections on like old ass videos too. So to set the stage, you had two different people on two different sides of this argument. You had Praise the Sun on one side, who believed skill was more important than anything else when it came to the PvP, and you had Damn No HTML, who believed that skill mattered, but weapon choice was more prevalent. Two people on the sides of the argument that I was just talking about. Now what made this sort of unique is that both of these guys made the exact same thing. They both made these sort of training room type videos. If you were a sweat PvP player like myself back in the day in Dark Souls 3, you watched their training videos. Because even if you didn't really like how they played, they gave really good advice on the weapon and its stats. So everyone who was a PvP sweat watched these two guys in their training rooms. And they made videos on every weapon in the game, and finally they got around to a weapon commonly known among PvP gods such as myself as the 𝙻𝚒𝚗𝚔𝚜. And on one side, Praise said it could be good if you had the right amount of skill. Meanwhile, Scott said if you use this weapon, the other person is going to slap your ass. The other person you're fighting, if you use the 𝙻𝚒𝚗𝚔𝚜, is going to take your pants to Browntown. There's no way you're beating someone with a 𝙻𝚒𝚗𝚜 unless they're incredibly bad. So, they both made these, they casted shade, and things escalated to the point where you could tell someone was about to get their ass smacked for them. Someone was about to get their ass wiped back to front by the other. And back in the day, and still to this day, From Software has never really given a single solitary shit about Dark Souls 3, so the players themselves would host their own tournaments for fighting, and one guy who did this a ton was 𝙻𝚒𝚗𝚔. So Scott and Praise decided to meet up at one of these and have a grudge match. So the two of them meet up, and you can actually find this shit on YouTube right now if you go to Barneasy Jones's channel. And the two of them meet up, they get around to their match. Praise comes out with a katana, Scott comes out with the 𝙬𝚒𝚗𝚔 curved sword. Now that's an old meme now, but back in the day the 𝙬𝚒𝚗𝚔 curved sword was a fudge packer. That sword took the shit out of people's assholes and shoved it down their throats. That thing was no fucking joke. But anyway, Scott came out with the 𝙬𝚒𝚗𝚔 curved sword, and you could almost smell the sweat. You could almost hear the sweat drops falling off the ass crack of the sweaty men in their gamer chairs, hitting the leather on the seat of the chair. The musk was almost palpable. It was so sweaty. Because like I said, this wasn't a From Software sanctioned event. This was just a bunch of sweaty men wearing fucking gamer attire meeting out in the middle of nowhere to PvP each other. And so they go out and they meet in the Ring of Honor. They get ready to fight. And Scott absolutely wipes the floor with Praise with the 𝙬𝚒𝚗𝚔𝚗𝚒 curved sword. He fucking wiped his ass back to front with that shit. And with Scott winning that way, with him twisting Praise's titties that hard in that match, that fucking changed the landscape of how people talked about PvP for a while. I don't even know if those two know about it, but you could bet your biddy that people started talking about that match, and they kept talking about it for a long time. Now of course that's 2 years ago, it's ancient history now, and all the players from 2 years ago who remember that shit have moved on by now. But that shit really fucking changed how people talked about the PvP in this game, and it gave some real fire to some of the debates that people had. It was really fun to watch. But yeah, that's just a little story I thought I'd share with all of you. If you're here from one of my streams, get back in that shit. I'm probably talking about my asshole again. But yeah, that's it for this video. Shout out to the people on my Patreon. If you'd like to see more garbage fire content like this, consider going over and looking at it. Also leave a comment for a future video idea if you have one. So yeah, see ya.